Welcome to the Fit Girl Magic podcast. If you are ready to find your inner magic, develop great habits, and a rock steady mindset to feel confident, comfortable, and fit in your body, you are in the right place. I am Kim Barnes Jefferson, and I'll be giving you weekly doses of health, fitness, and life tips sprinkled with humor and real talk. If you're ready to be consistent without the stress of perfection, magic makers, it's time to slip into your favorite pair of PJs, grab some coffee, kick back, and listen to today's show. Hey, Magic Makers, Kim here. I wanted to quickly pop into this podcast and share with you about something that I've recently discovered. If you follow me on Instagram, you've been seeing my what I call Movement Mondays. And every Monday I've been sharing with you some type of rehab, some type of corrective exercise that I've been doing to really help my shoulder that I injured back in June. And while the corrective exercises are awesome and my shoulder's starting to feel better, I want to share with you something else that I've been using. I have been using CBD cream. Now I know I was the same person. I was like, CBD, does that stuff really work? And let me just tell you, that stuff really works. It has been a game changer for me when it comes to just helping me the nagging ache that I used to have in my shoulders. And, as you know, I do my research. And so what I found is that CBD cream is what helps to reduce the inflammation caused from the damage that I did to my rotator cuff. And it uses I'm going to try to pronounce this correct way. It uses our endocannabinoid system to really help us get deep down into our nervous system to really help calm down those nerves. And let me tell you, we could get all techie, all sciencey, but it has just been a game changer as far as really helping me rehab my shoulder. And I just can't talk about it enough. So if you're somebody who has been, has nagging aches and pains, and you're looking for a little relief that you're not getting from the other products on the market, I got to tell you, the CBD cream that I've been using has just been an absolute game changer. Plus, it's not stinky, right? So I don't have to worry about, wearing it during the day and wondering, is someone going to be like, who is smelling like old man? That's not the case. So if you're interested in finding out more about CBD, do me a favor, click the link in today's show notes. Hey, Magic Makers, this month is all about how do you remain consistent? And, I asked for other fitness pros for them to weigh in on this. And, one of the biggest things is I see, and you'll hear from the fitness pros that I've asked their opinion on as well, is that so many of us think that in order to get the results that we want, to lose the weight, to get stronger, fitter, whatever the health goal that you have, is that we think it's one outside of ourselves, that it has to be hard, that it has to be this big Herculean thing, and it must happen overnight, right? And what I have seen and what you'll hear from my 4 fitness pros today is that it's not about doing all the things, right? I am guilty of being a perfectionist. Let's just say I'm a perfectionist in recovery. I can still have those perfectionist mindsets. And with that perfectionist mindset, I'm now more able to recognize it so that it doesn't derail me the way it used to, right? How many of you are listening to me right now and you're like, oh, girl, if it didn't happen perfectly, I would have to start all over again on Monday. I had to check every single box. And if I didn't check all the boxes, it was a sign that I wasn't supposed to work. And then you're off to find another program, diet, coach, whatever, to make it all be perfect again. And I read this analogy. I don't know where I read it. It's brilliant. And so I wish I came up with it, but I didn't. So it's kind of like we all have had a glass of red wine and we might be wearing a light colored shirt. And how many of us have had that glass of red wine, get a drop on our shirt, and we immediately we just go in the bathroom and we, blot, get some club soda, some club soda and salt. And we, go on about our business and we're like, oh yeah, it's fine. We don't take off our shirt and throw it out and sit there for the rest of dinner in our bras, right? Well, maybe you do. If you do, holla at your girl. But that's what many of us, when we have a misstep with our nutrition, it's going to happen, right? We're not perfect. We are meant to learn lessons, right? And where I see, when people are trying so hard, and I get it, like they're trying so hard, they like are white knuckling it. They're holding on by their, the tips of their fingernails to try to be consistent with nutrition. And consistency is where you're going to get the results. It's finding that sweet spot, right? It's that perfect like wake. Like think if you were laying in a boat, right? And it's like that nice rocking motion that you just are swaying back and forth. It's not too high, it's not too low, and it's just that right rhythm. And that's life. And that's where I want you to think about how nutrition, diet, and exercise should be, is finding your sweet spot. And what I see is that so many of you are chasing things that are outside of your level. Now, that's not me saying, you're never going to get to that level. I talk about this regularly. It's like school. When we went to kindergarten, did we say, you know what? I know everyone else here is coloring, but I'm going to need some advanced math. I'm not a kindergartner. I want to be a third grader. We don't say that. And when we're in the third grade, we're like, oh, I want to be a fifth grader, right? We don't say that. We're like, we know that there is a graduated process in education. I don't know why we don't feel the same way when it comes to diet and nutrition, right? We feel like we have to bang our heads up against the wall multiple times to learn the same goddamn lessons if we just slowed our asses down. And it is the consistency, right? Because how many of you have chased down a diet like it was a blood relative, only for that diet to bite you in the ass and say, I told you so? So here's where I want you to start to think about, how do I maintain consistency? And consistency isn't about restriction, because think about it. Every time you've restricted, it is blown up in your face. At least it's just for me. I know, I tell the story, when I was competing, I would just go hardcore for 6 months. 6 months, no alcohol, no fun foods, no treats, nothing. It was like, if it wasn't clean, it wasn't for me. I brought my food everywhere. I was the girl with a fucking thing of Tupperware and a gallon of water. Then I stopped competing. And I was like, I deserve to have some Dublin mudslide. I deserve it. I bought 1 pint. I go home. I'm making dinner. I'm like, you know what? I'll have a couple of bites while I have dinner. I deserve it. Next thing you know, that bad boy was gone. Then I was like, shit, I need more. I'm out in the car. I'm buying 2 pints, eating in the pint of ice cream in the car, right? That's what restriction does. It sets you up to be a hungry, hungry hippo. And it's not you. It's just that you've restricted the flavor profiles of certain foods for so long that your body's like, oh my God, the taste is so bad. Can I have more? So I want you to really think about, how has this binge cycle, how has this restriction cycle worked for you? Have you had that binge? Have you been like, in the middle of the parking lot at 7-Eleven with your underwear on your head eating Suzy Q's? Because that's not what nutrition is all about, okay? So if we're trying to be consistent, break free of that restriction cycle and really focus on, how do you add in as much variety into your food as possible, even the fun foods, right? And break free of it having to happen quickly. So many, whenever I see lose 30 pounds in 30 days, I want to just reach through the computer and strangle that person, because diet culture has taught us that if it doesn't happen fast, it's not going to happen. And research has shown that if we take our sweet old time to lose the weight, we do it in a consistent, sustainable way, guess what? That weight ain't coming back. And this is what I share with you. The weight didn't come on overnight, right? None of us gained 300 pounds in 3 days. As much as we mentally think we did, it was a slow creep. So let that weight come off slowly so that I can learn lessons, so that I can be able to say, okay, this is my process, so that I can have this stair-step approach to being able to get and hit my goals. As I talk about, it's sustainability. It's like, how do you make this a lifestyle? That's where consistency comes. You know, in my Fit Girl Magic formula, it's a framework I use with all of my clients, is that we really need to focus on great habits. Those habits will turn into great routines. Those routines will turn into consistency, and it's the consistency that will bring us the results. So as I step back, you know, what are the habits that you have, right? Do you have the habit of starting over every Monday? Do you have the habit of everything has to be perfect? Do you have the habit of like having this laundry list? If you don't do all of these things, you suck, right? What are some of your habits that keep you from moving forward? And do you have the habit of trying to do too much? That's where I see a lot of people struggle, is that they want to do, you know, advanced math, advanced calculus, advanced algebra, advanced, and they haven't mastered the basics. And the basic being like, do you even know what you're eating? Right? Are you even moving? You know, asking yourself the basic questions. So, my 4 fitness pros, I'm going to kick it off with Leslie Signs. And she was like, short, concise, and to the point. And she echoes what I just said. And it's all about small, powerful movements. Have a listen to what Leslie has to say.
Hi, my name is Lindsay Signs, and one piece of advice I would give to someone continuing their health journey and how to stay consistent would be to focus on the daily action steps instead of the end goal, and really hone in on those healthy habits from day to day.
Next up, we have Leslie, and I really identify with Leslie as, you know, one of her biggest tips was to make a schedule. I was the queen of the wingers. That was me sighing how horrible I was at scheduling. I just was like, oh, it's just going to happen. I'm just going to get it done. And I never did. And when I finally said, if I really wanted to do this, I had to make the time. And I hear it regularly from people, like, I don't have the time. No. It's not your priority. And, you know, maybe 3 years ago, my husband and I were traveling a lot after Christmas. You know, we went to go visit my parents, and then his really good friend got remarried. And then we went to their wedding in Florida. We went to Amsterdam. Then I had a work trip. He had a work trip. And let's just say this, my Christmas tree stayed up until the middle of March. Yeah. And I would walk past my living room. Every time I went up and down my stairs, I would see my tree and I would be like, yeah, I got to deal with that. Yeah, I got to deal with that. And so how many of you fall victim to that, right? You know, you're like, oh yeah, next week I'm going to start my diet. Yeah, oh yeah, next week I'm going to join the gym, or next week I'm going to get my butt back to the gym. I hear you. So have a listen to Leslie. She gives us some great tips as to how do we make this part of our schedule and celebrate the shit out of it so that it's something we want to keep doing. Have a listen and let me know what you think.
Hello, Fit Girl Magic listeners. I'm Leslie Logan. I'm a Pilates instructor, and I wanted to give you a piece of advice on trying to stay consistent with your health and fitness goals. First of all, the fact that you're even wanting to listen to this advice means that this is something you really, really want. And that's what I can tell from that. And so just know that if that is something you want, I want you to celebrate any time you think about being consistent, because our brain really, really does pay attention to the way we react to things. And so if you get stressed out because you're not being consistent, just know that your brain is not going to look for ways for you to get consistent. So I know that sounds like my piece of advice is to celebrate, but we'll get back to that in just a second. So here's what I want you to do. I believe that what is scheduled is what happens. And so I want you to grab your calendar and I want you to plug in a date with yourself where these goals happen, whether it is planning your shopping to get the healthy foods that you're wanting to put on your plate, or it is when you're doing the workouts. I want it in your schedule, because what is scheduled is what will happen. And if life happens and you miss a date with yourself, first of all, there's always such a thing called rescheduling. But second, I don't want you to get mad at yourself. Going back to what I said at the beginning of this, our brain pays attention. So if you miss a date with yourself, if you miss an opportunity to do something that's consistent, that would be consistent with your health and fitness goals, you cannot get upset. You have to just take a moment, strategize how you won't let that happen again, and then celebrate yourself for thinking about that thing, because your brain is paying attention to how you react to your health and fitness goal. And if you're stressed out about them, it's not going to look for ways to be consistent. It's going to look for ways to not be consistent. So celebrate even the fact that you thought about doing it, and that's going to help you be more consistent toward those health and fitness goals. I'm really excited for you. I know you're going to be awesome. So take time, schedule dates with these goals, and then celebrate anytime you think about doing them or when you do them. You're going to get that easy win, and it's going to make it easier to add more and more things in the future, and stay consistent with those as well. Thank you so much. Have an awesome day.
Here we have Miss Laura Calvo, and I think you're starting to get a theme here, a sense about the small, right? It's small victories. I use this example regularly because it's the one that I think is the most visual. Think about a snowstorm. I live here in Boston and we get snowstorms. So if you are, someone from Florida, or you live in California, I don't know about snow, watch a video. So snowstorms happen inch by inch by inch, right? Even, the worst snowstorm here in New England, that it will come down an inch an hour. But if you think about over those 60 minutes, it's only, millimeters of snow that are falling from the sky. And eventually over time, sometimes a snowstorm here can last us 24 to 48 hours. And sometimes that snowstorm, as I look out when the first flakes start to fly, I'm like, I don't know if the weathermen got this right. And then, 24 hours into the storm, I'm like, oh shit, I can't open my front door. That's what weight loss is, right? It's a snowstorm. It is a slow chug. And I know many of us don't want it to be slow. We want it to be, you think about it on a Monday, and by Friday, bada boom, bada bing, the weight is gone. And Laura brings up some really great tips here, and I can identify her with motivation. I see it all over the socials. I don't have motivation. How do you find motivation? How do you keep motivation? Well, I know this for sure. Motivation ain't gonna roll up on your door, knock on it, and be like, "Hey, girlfriend, let's get in the car." That's just not how it happens. So stop trying to rely on the tools that aren't going to serve you. Right? That's the one big takeaway that I want from all of this, and the one takeaway that all of my fitness pros have really driven home. So take a listen to Laura. Let me know how it resonates with you, where it lands, and tag a friend who may need to hear this advice.
Hey there, this is Laura Cavallo. I am a strength and slim coach for busy working women. And today I'm going to be sharing my one piece of advice that I would be giving someone who is looking to stay more consistent with their health and fitness goals. And I guess you could say this is a two-part piece of advice. But number one is start small. So many people who are either starting or having trouble sticking to a routine get so overwhelmed because they think that their workouts have to be an hour and a half and that they have to cook 3 square meals of super healthy, delicious food. And the reality is that when we go from one extreme to the next, it's often very hard to stay consistent. So I find with my clients that just starting with one small habit, one small change, whether it's drinking 1 or 2 glasses more of water per day, going for a 20-minute walk, or just meal prepping one thing on Sunday for the week, gets them into that routine of success with small habits and just doing something every day, even if it's just something small. On top of this sort of start small habit, my second piece of advice, and sort of advice from myself and not just my clients is that don't rely solely on motivation as a way to stay consistent. The reality is that even for fitness coaches, wellness professionals, even athletes, we aren't always going to feel motivated to exercise. And that is just the reality. So the more that we can normalize not being motivated to exercise or eat healthy all the time, I think it helps release that shame and that guilt of always needing to be on top of it and always feeling like we need to be the best or be perfect. As women, I find that my clients tend to carry a lot of shame and judgment and guilt around being perfect or not being perfect or not doing something all the time, when in reality, where we are human beings and life happens and things happen. So the more that we can stop relying on motivation itself and focus more on just doing something small every day, the more wins we're going to get under our belt, the more joy and the more excitement and the more accomplishment we're going to feel in these smaller habits. And then after time, as you build up smaller habits, you can start increasing how many of those habits you do, or the length of those habits, the length of those workouts, the complexity of those nutrition habits that you might implement. And getting rid of that shame and that guilt and that judgment, and knowing that we're only human, and that if we fall off the horse, just to get back up and keep trying. I think we're going to find a lot more success with those habits if we keep those two things in mind. Thanks for listening. Again, this is Laura Cavallo. I'm a strength and slim coach for busy working women, and I hope you're having a great day.
Woo! Magic Makers. That just was such a powerful phone call that I was with Miss Ashley Mitchell. There wasn't a subject we didn't hit on, and I just absolutely adored this conversation. We talked about being unapologetic, the difference between resilience and reliance, and how do we transform ourselves from our past and use the courage to choose different, use the courage to be different. And man, oh man, oh man, just have a listen and tell me what you think of this conversation. We also touched about what it's like to be Black fitness instructors in a predominantly white city. So like I said, there wasn't a subject that we did not hit. We talked about what it feels like to be, living in Corona times. And are you leaving the house? Are you not leaving the house? So it's such a beautiful conversation. Have a listen and enjoy.
Hi, guys. I am so excited to be featured on Kim's podcast. So today I'm going to answer the question, what is one piece of fitness or health advice you can give to someone new trying to stay consistent? I absolutely love this question because oftentimes when you're getting started on your health and fitness journey, you feel so overwhelmed with trying to do all the things. Either you're trying to eat perfectly, work out every single day, hit your water goal, get all your sleep in, and it can be a bit overwhelming. The secret to sustaining your body composition change and improving your health is making sure you're going at your own pace. I like to set many goals with my clients. We generally will focus on 1 to 3 dial movers for them, and that will allow them to not feel so overwhelmed, get burnt out on trying to do too much too soon, and it allows you to really measure progress. So if you're just getting started, I suggest that you focus in on 1 to 3 dial movers. So what are some dial movers? Here are some examples I give my clients. Eating a whole protein at every single meal, making sure you move every day, anywhere from 10 minutes to 30 minutes, or if you have a little more time, great. Making sure you're eating your vegetables, making sure you're getting in some walking, making sure that you are, food journaling. Everybody has their own unique goals, but really focus in on 1 to 3 of those things, and that will help you move the dial in the right direction without feeling overwhelmed. Always remember, this is a marathon and not a sprint. Sustainable change happens over time. Unfortunately, it doesn't have that instant gratification, but if you keep with it, show up consistently, and trust the process, you are going to see amazing results. So ask yourself today, what are 1 to 3 things you could start doing today that's going to push you in the right direction? Maybe it's eating more vegetables, having protein at every meal, drinking more water, walking or lifting weights. Pick things that you know is going to work for you and tackle those harder barriers down the road after you build up some momentum and confidence. Thanks so much, guys.
Thank you for listening to the Fit Girl Magic podcast. If you've made it this far, yay. I'm thinking you enjoyed the show. Let's continue the conversation on Instagram. You can find me at Kim Jefferson Coach. In order for me to keep sharing this message, do me a favor and leave me a 5-star review on iTunes. While you're there, don't forget to subscribe so that you won't miss an episode. New episodes are available every Wednesday. The Fit Girl Magic podcast is intended to provide you with tips, tools, and strategies that will help you make better decisions about your health. I really appreciate your feedback and your support. Thank you so much.